Giving free lawyers to tenants is going to cost landlords big. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article again for you today, and it's all about, a lot of these municipalities, states have decided that they're going to provide free legal advice and free lawyers to tenants so that they can help fight their eviction, okay? Because they believe that somehow the landlords are screwing the tenant over in eviction court, and that, by providing them these lawyers, that will help more people remain housed. Well, it's actually really, really hurting small landlords and dragging out the process and keeping bad tenants in properties. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of these laws where, tenants get free lawyers and you have to go up there and pay your own lawyer to go up in court and represent you. I think they're complete garbage, and I'm glad that they don't do that here in Nebraska, though there are some lawyers who volunteer their services. I think it's a bad idea for the government to be paying for lawyers for them unless they're paying for lawyers for us as well. So, this article, it comes from avpress.com, and it says, "Do states' rent laws lead to more homelessness?" No one wants to see some poor, unfortunate soul put out on the street the first time they fall a few days behind on the rent. But do California laws do more to create homelessness than to prevent it? Tenants, in popular lore, are the noble heroes just trying to get by, while the landlords are often portrayed as ultra-rich, cold-hearted money grubbers along the lines of Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. Some of them may be, but as in everything else, there is more to the story. Often, it is the landlord who is just trying to get by, and the tenants are anything but noble. And as I've said on this channel many, many times, the grand majority of landlords are like me. They're small mom and pop landlords, okay? They don't own that many properties. They usually work an additional job as well as being a landlord, okay? I work a full-time job, okay? I do landlord as a side hustle, okay? It's not what I do for my primary income. And a lot of small landlords are the same way. So, it bothers me a lot when I read about, all these tenant right people, and they think, oh, we're going to stick it to the man. And what they're really doing is they're sticking it to their neighbors. They're sticking it to nice, humble middle class people who are just working extra hard and happen to own an extra house that they're renting out. Small-time landlords, often working people or retirees trying to supplement their income, can end up going into debt getting rid of a bad tenant. Unless you're a rich person, you can't do the Howard and Marion Cunningham renting out the garage to the Fonz, said Ricka Fountain, an attorney with the Palmdale firm of Charlton and Weeks, in a reference to the sitcom Happy Days, which set in the 1950s. Fountain, a former Valley Press reporter, told me about some of her cases in which good, hard-working people were victimized by bad tenants and the California system. So keep in mind, these stories are coming out of California, one of the most tenant-friendly places. So, it's pretty amazing to hear some of the craziness that happens there. In one particularly surreal case, she represents a woman who speaks limited English and has limited means and limited legal sophistication, who takes on roommates to make ends meet. This woman has been plagued for months by a tenant who, according to Fountain's legal motion, has a 2-year restraining order against him, and he was recently arrested and hospitalized for brandishing a knife. He smears his feces in the bathroom, has flooded the bathroom deliberately every day this week, and wakes other residents up regularly, punching walls and yelling threats. The landlord tried to work with him rather than kick him out during the pandemic, but he became too much for her to handle, Fountain said, so she began eviction proceedings. Wow, yeah, this sounds like the nightmare tenant that every landlord hates, okay? Now, we just want to get that problem tenant out of the property. That's it. And it sounds like in California, that is very, very hard to do. Relying on free legal aid from the taxpayers of California, the tenant dragged out the process for months, finally leaving just ahead of the sheriff's department lockout. The room was left in ruins, stab marks all over the walls. For weeks, the landlord was a prisoner in her own home. Not only was it a nightmare for her, it made it difficult to keep her other paying tenants or attract new ones. Yeah, and that's the problem right there, okay? When you own, a multi-unit, or if you're renting out multiple rooms inside of one building, you have to think about the other tenants, okay? So she really was put into a bad situation, and she couldn't get rid of this person. The free legal aid from California kept this bad tenant in her property for as long as possible, for months, when this person should have just been gotten rid of ASAP. But no, they sat there, and lawyers made it worse by keeping this person in there. Worse for the current tenants who are also living in the place, and worse for the landlord. The public thinks the free legal aid levels the playing field, but it doesn't, Fountain said. A landlord can be entitled to a flat fee of $1,000 for process server and paralegal services, but if the case drags on because of fruitless legal challenges by legal aid attorneys, the out-of-pocket cost to the landlord runs into the thousands. According to Fountain, legal aid strategy is to drive up the legal fees so the landlord is forced to either back down or pay the tenant many thousands of dollars to leave and give them 2 or 3 more months of free rent. Seal their records so future landlords don't know they've pulled this, and often provide a written reference. It can cost $20,000 to get a tenant out. The free legal fees maximize that problem, Fountain said. So you see the problem, So all the free legal fees actually make it so that the landlord gets screwed. I mean, it's pretty simple, really. And the tenant, they get to stay as long as possible. Sometimes they get a payout. They get paid to move out. They get the record of the eviction sealed, and they get a reference. And all of it coming for a tenant that is a piece of crap. Okay? So, yeah. These free legal services for tenants, it's a bad idea. I don't agree with it. I'm losing my voice here. I still am recovering from a cold. So that's going to be it for today's video. But just be aware that, if you see this kind of legislation coming up in your city, your town, fight it, okay? Landlords need to fight this kind of thing because it's going to cost us in the long run.